Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Now That You Mention It podcast with Roll and Jay. I'm Roll.
I'm Jay.
I want to thank you for sticking with us. This is our fourth episode. We're going to just dive right in. Jay, so as you can notice, I've got the Blue Angels back here behind my back.
Yeah, so I think I'm the only person in America that missed out on that. But before we get started with that, bro, guys, we really appreciate everything that you're doing. So if you like what we're doing, if you'll hit the like and subscribe button down at the bottom for us, leave a couple of comments. But yeah, so my wife texted me very excitedly that, she was watching on TV about them taking off, and she's like, I don't see anything. And, we live close to downtown, close to your office, actually. We live basically right around the corner from your office. Right. And she said that on the TV they were talking about they were fixing to fly through downtown, over downtown. Mm-hmm. And so right when she stepped out onto the porch and looked up, she said she saw them flying in formation. She saw the underneath of the aircraft. She said it was very, very cool. So I was looking at the flight plan that she had sent me, like a copy of the flight plan, I think WFAA had put out or whatever. And I thought they would fly through Irving to get to Grand Prairie after they went through like Duncanville. But I missed it, man, completely. But I saw so many people posting about it on Facebook. Yeah. I even saw you posting about it on Facebook.
I was actually at the office. I got to the office a little after 10 and just made a note to go outside and take a look around. I think it was 10 after 11. Saw them coming from the north. Saw them do the whole flyover downtown and then head on out south. It was really, really cool. Very, very impressive.
Well, that's good. I know my best friend, he got a nice video of it on Facebook, and they were in his front yard. And when they were flying over, he caught it in slow mo. Yep. So as they're banking left over, I guess Duncanville, you can just see him going in slow motion. It was very, very cool looking. I really, really wish I had been able to see that. But yeah, well, I think.
Yeah, you go on Facebook, you'll see a number of people got some really good footage. I mean, they flew in, they did the whole circle of downtown Dallas, and then went on the rest of their flight plan. Several people got some good footage. So if you look on Facebook, I just really think it's really cool. It kind of reaffirms a little bit of our patriotic spirit, knowing that we've got some. We're paying homage to all the frontline workers, having people out there every day risking their lives for us, and so it was really cool. It was very awe-inspiring, and just reminds us, that we're blessed to be living in a country where we're free. We have so many freedoms, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're kind of having this really hard time adjusting with how we're going to loosen restrictions, get businesses back going. Yeah, because in this country we really take our freedoms, and so when we don't, when we have to compromise those, people are going to get bent out of shape.
Oh yeah. I saw the article today about the salon owner, that Salon Automode, that they sentenced her to 7 days in jail for violating the stay-at-home order, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't think that they would go that far. I know that they'd done an injunction against her. They had given her some citations, and I understand where she's coming from, because she's right. She has to feed her family. There's no way around it. You don't want your family to starve. You don't want your family to go hungry. You have bills to pay. You have, other people that depend on you as well. You're talking about, your employees. You're talking about, the people who depend on you to run a business. stylists that work there and things like that, they depend on you. So she was kind of adamant about opening, and she did, against the orders. And, like you said, she has the right. I get it. And I think it went a little far by, putting her in jail. I mean, the salons were going to open at the end of this week anyway, May 8th. Governor Abbott had already put the order out that on May 8th, salons were going to be allowed to open again. So I think it may have gone a little too far on that aspect, but you're right. People take their liberties seriously. I have customers who come in to my office on a daily that refuse to wear a mask. And you know what? That's their right.
Right.
They asked me, why are you wearing a mask? Do you believe in this? And I said, you know what? It's not whether I believe in it or not, but the county has stipulated to me that if I want to remain in business and I want to stay open, then I have to do whatever I can to try to protect my clients, try to protect the people that come into the office, try to protect the people who work for me. So one of those stipulations is wearing masks when, clients are present, staying 6 feet apart. I mean, the people in my office, we physically moved their desks so that everybody had 6 feet of distance between them. We threw the tape down on the floor like everybody else. It says, hey, you can sit here. If you come beyond this point, you have to step up to the desk, then I'm going to move back. There's a lot of different things that we had to do to comply. But the biggest one is we have to wear masks. We have to sanitize after every client leaves the office.
Well, and that's a responsible thing to do, because with this virus, you cannot tell who is and isn't infected. You cannot tell with every person whether or not they have. Some people are asymptomatic. That doesn't mean they don't have the virus. They just mean they're not demonstrating symptoms. And
Right.
so, the responsible thing is, yes, I mean, we got to figure out it's a balancing act. And I do believe in her rights to try and do what she has to do to support her family. But I also think, too, I mean, she probably could have, I don't know, sometimes I think people play up a little bit of the media exposure. You can't, it's not like she was being so suppressed. I mean, government took some steps to try and help people. Now, again, the systematic problem is the quantity of people applying for unemployment, the quality of people applying for loans to help their businesses just overwhelm the system. And again, that's a function of everybody being in the same boat at the same time and not having a big enough boat. So some people, unfortunately, are going to drown. And, we just, for as much abundance as we have in this country, we have a significant people. We have enough. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. A little technical glitch there.
No worries. So we have a significant amount of people that don't have the, resources aren't equal. Resources
Right.
aren't equal. Different parts of the country, even in some neighborhoods, resources aren't equal. So
Speaking of resources, just being able to get things, in America. So any kind of item right now, there's a lot of talk about, the supply chain in America is broken. And, that's the truth. I mean, you've had experience with this. And, I've had experience with this in the last, week, just trying to find some, just generic items. When we started doing this, I noticed that the videos are taking up a lot of space in my laptop. So I started putting them on an external drive, a USB port and the USB drive. And, I said, well, this is not going to be enough. The USB drive will only hold so much of the videos. And From there, I said, you know what? I'm going to go get a external hard drive, and I'm going to get the biggest one I can find, a 3 terabyte external hard drive. So that was my goal, is let me go get an external hard drive. Well, lo and behold, man, I cannot find one to save my life. Especially, I was able to find one that was 1 terabyte, but man, I was not able to find anything larger than terabyte anywhere. Best Buy, Overstock. I searched several different websites and everything, everywhere. 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, and above, sold out, sold out, sold out. And the problem is, the makers of these items, a lot of that comes from China. The parts come from overseas. Right. So without the parts to make them, there's no hard drives. So I was lucky to find this one.
Well, I experienced the same thing with trying to find another laptop. I'm trying to get a laptop just so I could dedicate to certain things in my business. I don't need all the bells and whistles, and I'm not really willing to spend a lot of money for it. There are certain requirements I want, but it's the same thing. To find a laptop, particularly because all the school kids are working from home. You have so many people that are working from home. The sales of laptops in a certain price range have basically left a big shortage. And so, I mean, you can still find laptops out there if you want to spend, a certain price point. But, for some of the things I need, it would just be overkill. I think the other thing, too, is even today, almost every day for the last 3 weeks, I've been checking on trying to buy disinfectant, Clorox wipes.
Yeah.
Lysol. Exactly. I mean, you still can't get that stuff online.
No, and we need that stuff in our office because, like I said, after every client that leaves our office, we have to disinfect the desk where they sat, the items that they used, door handles, everything like that. And we find we're just rolling through disinfecting wipes, hand sanitizer, because we have to provide it for our clients. And then for us as well. And then, just general disinfectant to clean the office with. So it's getting harder and harder to find those things. Even now, for whatever reason, toilet paper is still hard to come by. And, I went to the store the other day and they had toilet paper, but it was all one brand, one size. It was all, it was an off brand. It wasn't Charmin. It wasn't, any of the big, names in toilet paper, if there's a big name in toilet paper. But, so there were smaller rolls and they were, 12 packs. That's all you could get was a 12 pack. They didn't have anything they didn't have anything bigger, anything smaller. And I think that it's certain parts of, towns that you talk about this, the inequity that you talked about, because I think that if I would have gone to Costco, I probably could have found something bigger and maybe a name brand. But unfortunately, I live in, a part of Dallas and Oak Cliff where it's kind of a food desert. We don't have the big name grocery stores around us. The nearest, Tum Thum to me is 15 minutes away. The nearest Kroger to me is 15 minutes away. The nearest Whole Foods is in Uptown. There's been all this talk about opening Whole Foods here in Oak Cliff for a long, long time, and it still hasn't happened. But because we have these smaller grocery chains here, even though they're chains, it's El Rio Grande. There's like something called a cost saver. Yeah, a Rancho over there. But they just have their store brands, and you don't see the Charmin and the Cottonelle and all the other things. So yeah, I mean, just the supply chain in America is broken right now, and there's so many, things that are going to be hurting even worse with meat packing plants, people leaving because they're testing positive. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, and I mean the shopping experience in general is still a 50-50 proposition. I don't know. You saw there was an article earlier in the week about uh, I think it was a total of 80 employees or 80 plus employees at a Walmart in Maine that tested positive for COVID. And so they
Wow.
basically had to shut that store down and go through a thorough cleansing. And I think again it's really just a numbers thing, bro. I mean, on a day
Yeah.
to day basis, I think most retailers do an extremely fantastic job in monitoring inventories. But again, when you have this sudden spike and this sudden surge, and it's an unanticipated surge, when everybody is going to buy, unfortunately, there's people aren't reasonable in those times, and so they don't really think about, hey, the right thing is for me just to buy a couple of packs of this
Yeah.
and keep. No, I mean, you saw the guy that bought all the sanitizer, the hand sanitizer,
Yeah.
and was trying
Like
to,
in Tennessee or whatever.
yeah,
Had
and
over
then the same thing
$1,600 hand
with the
sanitizer.
with a bunch of people that just bought all the toilet paper they could buy, and those things unfortunately create they don't help the situation. They exacerbate it to where people now are, if you weren't I mean, think about it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're probably not going to be able to go buy your groceries until you get your next check.
Right.
And so if you're waiting for Friday or every other week, whatever your payday cycle is, well, then you're not going to be able to stock up on anything until you got money in hand. Well, if you get to the door 2 or 3 days later after everybody, and you got somebody who thinks that the world's going to come to an end, so they go buy all the Lysol, they go buy all the Clorox wipes. I guarantee in somebody's garage right now, there's probably 15 cans of Lysol,
Yeah.
probably about 10 packs of these Clorox wipes because people are unreasonable.
Yeah.
And again, that just creates pressure. And it's frustrating. And you go on to Amazon, which has become, I think, everybody's safety net to some degree. And even then, there's some of the products you can't find. And even
Yeah.
if you can find them, it's like, to your point, uh, we were talking earlier about you ordered some additional lighting. It still hadn't showed up.
Yeah.
Uh, my mic stand, my green screen. I mean, I just bought those things way back when, so they came in, but it still took over a month to get them from when
Yeah.
I ordered them. So again,
Yeah. I ordered additional lighting, and it's been almost a month now that hasn't arrived yet. And you need to talk to your other son who works for Amazon. And tell him where's my package. Tell him I want my stuff. But I mean, it's just there's nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately, the loss of some jobs leads to people not spending money, leads to suppliers not having, you know, the or having too much product and but nowhere to ship it. There's truck drivers who are out of work because people can't pay them because the revenue's not flowing because people aren't spending money. It's all such a vicious cycle, man, that it's you know, it when this first started and all the when my wife, when she was furloughed, when they closed down her salon, um, the big talk is, well, should we call our mortgage company and ask for deferments? Should we call our credit card companies and ask for deferments? Should we, and immediately I said no. The reason why is I'm still working. My salary is enough to cover all of our bills. And by us paying our mortgage, by us paying our credit card bills, by us still going out to the grocery store and buying things that we need when we need them, that's what the things that my little part to stimulate the economy, because I'm still putting money in their pockets so that they can have people that still work, and I'm just one person, but I feel like, to me, that's me doing my part. I'm not
sure,
gonna
sure.
put my mortgage company in a bind by saying, because I'm sure my mortgage company heard it from thousands of their people say, hey man, I need some mortgage help. Well, guess what? I can afford to pay my mortgage this month. I'm going to pay it. I'm not going to defer it because A, I don't want the additional interest and fees. And B, you know, I feel like they're probably hearing it so much from other people that by me being able to pay mine because I still can, you know, I'm fortunate enough to still be able to pay mine, that it's me doing my part to keep the economy going.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that everybody needs to keep in mind, I mean, this is not, I don't think that this is any one person. I mean, it's certainly not any one person's problem. It's just a systematic, you know, dynamic change all at once in a very short amount of time. And so we weren't prepared for it. It's taken
No.
us a while to ramp up for it. And, you know, going back to, you know, reopening business and things, you know, I think the biggest challenge is testing because, you know, none of us, I think, conscientiously wants to get somebody else sick. No, none of us wants to do that. I mean, there's a few out there that don't care, like we talked about last time. They just really don't give a shit about anybody else but themselves. But aside from that, I think the average person wants to be cautious, but that gets balanced by desperation because everybody has needs. And, you know, despite the fact that there's a mortgage payment or a rent payment or car
Yep.
payment, insurance payment, food, basic necessities, utilities, making sure you have water, making sure you have light. And so, you know, when you put that kind of pressure on people, it's really tough. And unfortunate that, you know, I still think we're quite a bit of ways out before you know, we can catch back up. Um, you know, and we'll see once we get back to normal how we adjust on the other side. Because I promise you, as soon as people are economically stable again,
Yeah.
there's going to be a significant amount of people that just hoard. They're going to go
Yeah.
out there and they're going to stockpile. They're going to stockpile because they're going to assume I don't want to be caught short again. And so that's going to continue to put pressure on demand. And I don't know if that's going to translate into higher prices. I'm sure it will. But, you know, scarcity in certain products is just going to be, you know, it is what it is. But thankfully, we have entertainment. Thankfully, we
Yeah.
have some things to talk about that kind of, you know, have some positive, I guess, you know, just positive factors for us every
Yeah,
day.
absolutely.
Um, and, you know, we talk about
Well,
all kinds
there's
of
one thing
topics.
I want to talk about in particular with you, but in order to do that, I'm going to bring in our special guest joining us again this week. There he is. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
RJ, how's it going, nephew?
Just, another day alive. Happy to be here talking with you guys. Definitely worst positions to be in the world. So,
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
like
Like
you guys
wearing a
said.
number 88 jersey that says Des Bryant on the back, right?
Anyway,
Worth,
I have a
worth
Michael Irvin
jersey
one,
now.
just
Look,
FYI.
you can just put a piece of duct tape across the back and just write CD on there. It'll be the
Okay,
same
so
thing.
I tried that because not with this, but with a Rangers jersey. You see people do that all the time, like at the ballpark. It was fairly common, and I had a Nelson Cruz jersey.
I remember.
And
I don't know.
And Chew.
Yeah, so
Chew.
the next season, Shin Chu wore number 17. So I was like, well, all I got to do is change RUZ to HOO. But after I took the tape off, the jersey's completely ruined. So I wouldn't recommend it again.
Yeah. Well, got something to talk about with y'all's, America's team here. And that's the Cowboys signing Andy Dalton. So, first takes, RJ, what do you think?
I mean, it all depends on the perspective, right? So if he's here to be a backup, I think it's a decent signing. If he's here to kind of, I guess put pressure on Dak or make Dak feel like he can be replaced, I think it's a risky move. His best record is 11-5-0 in a single season. His career record 70, 61-2. In the playoffs, he's 0-4. So, I understand he maybe didn't have the best weapons in Cincinnati, but I also think if they're trying to bring him in as, hey, Dak, if you don't want to sign this contract, we got our guy next, then I don't know. It's a risky move.
Well,
I agree. I think. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree. But I do think that to some degree, I like Dak. I think he's a phenomenal talent. Um, he is worth a lot of money, but sometimes I get a little frustrated with these superstars that just. I mean, they got to eke out a few more $1 million, and that's their right. I mean, if you know what you're worth, go get it. But to some degree, it turns me off on a player sometimes that it feels like they're just being a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard it on every sports station in America for every superstar who signs a big contract. What can you buy for $35 million that you can't get for 33?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
I get it. You're trying to eke out that extra $2 million a year, but man, it's in the grand scheme of things when you're going to sign, a 4-year, $120 million contract plus, you know, what's the big deal if you sign it at 125 or 128? Is that extra $3 million really gonna, hey, is that one less Ferrari you can buy?
I think it's a prestige thing. Obviously, it's an ego stroke to some degree. Again, I'm not saying Dak's not worth a lot of money, but I mean, I would agree with that assessment. And I do think it is an insurance policy because at some point I kind of wish they would have played a little bit harder ball with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I know RJ and I disagreed on a while for it, and I wasn't saying don't pay Zeke his some money, but I thought hell we should have gone into the season and let the Pollard and the other running back let them have a couple of games and see how they do because Zeke is a phenomenal talent as well, but he also benefits from having a strong offense and a very good offensive line. I won't go into too much detail there because I kind of think they were a little overrated these last couple of years, but and that's to Zeke's credit. But I also think that there's enough talent at running back who probably would have been okay and maybe force Zeke's hand a little bit. But we don't make those decisions. Jerry does, and with bringing in Andy Dalton, I like Andy. I rooted for him in Cincinnati, but I don't necessarily like the Cincinnati Bengals. But he's a local guy. He's from this area, or from Texas anyway, and he went to school at TCU, which is a rival to my alma mater. So, but no doubt. I mean, he's from Texas. I think he's got great talent. He just never could get the supporting cast he really needed. I mean, he got some weapons, and I don't want to say he didn't have any weapons, but I think there was just a lot of inconsistency. So bringing him in here, he's going to be he's definitely an upgrade over Cooper Rush. Which
how did that dude? Okay, Cooper Rush has thrown 5 passes in his NFL career, however many he has. How did he sign another contract with another team? He went with Jason Garrett. He's up in New York. Yeah. This is going to be another one of those fools that's going to make $30 million over the course of his career and throw a grand total of 15 passes, man. That's living the dream right there.
Well, I mean, that's, I think we can all talk about, I mean, there's certainly different levels of talent. And as a quarterback, it's really a tough job in the NFL unless you're just super loaded with talent around you. I think there are like the Jimmy Garoppolos of the world in certain situations. And that's not to say Jimmy's not a good quarterback. I'm just saying that certain systems and certain talent levels around you make you a better quarterback. I think with Cooper Rush and our whole situation here in Dallas, it's we have a tendency, I think, to fall in love with certain players. Yeah. And I think 100% he was a Jason Garrett guy, which is only further supported by him going to New York where Jason Garrett's at. So, I think that it's hey, with some of these players that we sign, it's, there's an affinity to be around them. I don't know if Dez is going to come back to the Cowboys, but there's no question about it.
Well, there's
Jerry
no way
Jones,
he can now. His number's gone.
I mean, that's another ego thing. But I mean, I think Dez is at a point in his career where if he gets the opportunity to play again in the NFL, more especially play for the Cowboys, he'll make the compromises he needs to make. But that being said, again, I don't think there's a single doubt in anyone's mind. Jerry Jones is a huge Dez Bryant fan.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was a little hit and miss. I love his passion. And when he was at the top of his game, I would dare say there were none better. That guy, you threw the ball, you knew he was going to go get it. You knew he was going to come down with it.
Hey,
but sometimes I think his mental approach and sometimes his attitude were working against him. And I don't want to blame it all on him because I know a lot of that was a function of Garrett and stuff. But anyway, so I think Dak is probably not feeling any pressure whatsoever. But I do think it's something where, hey, buddy, we do got a very capable guy now here. The other thing I heard is, and they were talking about it on the radio, was that, it's just good business sense to have a good quality backup, particularly right now in COVID, because we don't know how the game is going to look like. And so if you talk about the scenario where, let's say Dak shows up and right before a game, they're doing the testing and Dak tests positive for the COVID, right? And they decide he's not going to play, and they decide, well, he's going to be out for 14 days or 10 days. I mean, that could be 2 games in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, because we don't know what the new system's going to look like with post-COVID, you kind of hedge your bets by having somebody else that theoretically could still be a starting quarterback somewhere on your roster.
I think ultimately it's a good signing either way, regardless of the COVID. I mean, just look at how Dak got the job. Romo got hurt, and God forbid something happened to Dak, but I think he's a better backup than Cooper Rush. I think we can all agree on that. So I think as a team we're better for it. Let's just hope. I'm all for, like my dad was saying. Maybe don't give Dak the $40 million that he wants, but I think if we can get him signed up, which it sounds like I saw a notification earlier that it sounds like they're going to get the deal done, then we'll be a good team for it, because the COVID situation is a possibility, but you just never know when a guy's going to get injured.
Yeah, I'm real curious to see how they're going to start sports back up. Now I know that like Korean baseball started up last night, and ESPN was covering it, and the commentators were covering it from their house. So like basically watching it on TV and covering it for ESPN. I know that the stands were empty. It was just the ball players out on the field, which is going to be weird. It's going to take people a minute to get used to that. But I think if people want live sports, that's what they're going to have to put up with. Not being able to go to a game for a while. There's talk of, some leagues not starting back up until 2021. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch, if nothing else.
I agree. I don't think they were talking about Mark Cuban saying that he was saying that he believes that we're going to basketball for the rest of this season is obviously going to have 0 fans, and they're going to have to take an approach where how they're going to have to come up with plans, contingency plans for if players test positive. But then we don't know. I mean, we've never been through it. We won't know what it looks like until it happens. It's funny that WWE wrestling continues to have their shows with almost no audience. They still play the theme music. The guys come out. They still have their speaking parts, and they still have Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
I haven't seen. Okay, so I haven't seen a WWF match since all this went down.
WWE. So
whatever, dude.
WWF.
That just goes to show you. That just goes to show you how long it's been since I watched. Yeah.
That's kind of when they lost my appeal, honestly, when they became the WWE.
Well, they lost me when Stone Cold pretty much, left.
Him and The Rock.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's been back a few times, but it's
not the same.
It isn't. It's not the heyday of when The Rock and Triple H and Stone Cold were all at the height of their powers, and it was like must watch to watch The Rock and Stone Cold, or even to watch, when they teamed up reluctantly or whatever. I missed the very beginnings of Kane. That Kane was awesome, man. When Kane would come to the ring and the fire would shoot up from the rings, and dude, you can't tell me that wasn't great theatrics, man.
It was, yeah.
Well, but the whole experience has changed without the fans. You got to look at it. I mean, you got to watch. I mean, I've watched a couple. It's very weird because I mean they're still addressing the audience, even though the audience isn't there. They still run through their script, if you will, and
I would love to see Hulk Hogan try to do that. With no fans in the stands. Who's he trying to hear? There's nobody there.
Well, when you mentioned Stone Cold, go back and look. Stone Cold on 3/16 on March 16th, they did a Stone Cold special. Okay.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and so Stone Cold came out to the ring, and he still did his shtick. Like, if you want to see Stone Cold Austin drink a beer, give me a hell yeah. I said, if you want to hear Stone Cold Steve Austin drink a beer, let me a hell yeah. And there's nobody there. Except for the commentators. The commentators are on the other side of the arena.
Who are going crazy, obviously. Oh, my God. Look at him. I can only imagine, man.
And so they ran through the whole script, and Stone Cold does his thing, drinks his beer. He gives someone he gives one of the announcers, comes down and gets Stone Cold Stunner, and then someone else gives the Stone Cold Stunner to Steve Austin. And you look at it, and it was just like it was very. It was just so bizarre because you're so used to the format the way it was, but now all of a sudden there's nobody cheering, there's nobody reacting to what he's saying, so it was just very, very bizarre.
You know who belongs in wrestling now?
Who's that?
That dude.
Oh my God.
Michael Jordan's bodyguard. Look at him, man. Look, he looks like totally 80s wrestling guy. He could have been the bodyguard. Dun, 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 dun. No, but this guy, obviously, the star of episode 6 of The Last Dance, man. This guy was awesome.
Yeah, no, he was good. He was funny. So I guess we can just let's transition into that. Let's talk about the Last Dance. It's been a very. I got to be honest. It's an impressive documentary thus far. You get to see some storylines that I think we as the public obviously weren't privy to. You get to see some of the dynamics. Episode 5 centered a little bit more on the Dream Team and the Olympics. Jordan and Pippen winning their second title.
And man, the all-out hate for Isaiah Thomas was real. And it wasn't just Michael Jordan. I mean, there were players on the Dream Team that just didn't want to mess with him. I know him and Magic were good friends, but I think even Magic didn't want him on the Dream Team. And man, they hated Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, and I was actually, because I've been watching this with my girlfriend, who isn't the biggest sports trivia person, if you will. So I explained to her that Magic and Isaiah Thomas only recently, I guess, ended their beef because of the Dream Team. How they kept him out. But who was it? Michael Wilbon from ESPN did out the other day that in the documentary he made it seem like nobody on the dream team went on, and I guess there were a couple, at least quite a few, that reached out to him and said, "Hey, that's not true. Not all of us didn't want him on." But yeah, you can definitely tell. Like even to this day, Jordan just absolutely despises Isaiah Thomas, and it befuddles me a little bit because it's like he's the 6-time champion. Why should it still bother him? But like as soon as they handed him the iPad, he was like, "It doesn't matter what Isaiah has to say. He's lying." He just dismissed it right away. So.
Well, yeah, because he was like, he's had all this time to think about what he wants to say, and he's had all this time to formulate a, response and all these other things, but that's not how he felt, and you're right, man. It was more than just Michael Jordan that kept Isaiah Thomas off the dream team.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think it was more Magic, if anybody. I mean, Magic was clearly, more of the the older guard, if you will. So, and even Michael said he he didn't necessarily say he didn't want Isaiah on the team. They asked him because when he said who's going to be on the team, well, they told him. They didn't ask him, but they told him the guy you're asking about isn't going to be on it. And he goes back and clarifies that he never specifically said I don't want Isaiah on the team or anything like that. To his credit. So
well, it'd be interesting
but he didn't really
to
have
see
to
what
say it.
Yeah, I was going to say it'd have been interesting to see what would have happened if they'd have told him Isaiah's going to be on the team, and then Jordan said, "Well, if he is, then I'm not." I think they could talk around it. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, very few people are. There was a big push against having him on the team, and as the documentary went on, you could tell that there was a lot of camaraderie. I think the other thing, though, too, is Jordan. To me, feels like he deserves everybody's respect, whether he admits it or not. And I think that's why it was very. I mean, even to this day, he still has hard feelings towards those guys because they disrespected him.
Yeah,
and
the whole everybody wants to be like Mike thing. Right. He loved that when Nike came up with that whole let's hire Spike Lee and hey money and that was feeding to his ego like beyond belief. And the Gatorade commercial, hey, I want to be like Mike. Charles Barkley singing it to him. Those kind of things fed into his ego. And you know what I forgot, that Gatorade used to come in glass bottles.
Yeah.
Did you see when he was drinking it?
Yeah.
I was watching. I was like, man, I forgot Gatorade used to come like that.
I thought the same thing. I said, man, we used to spend a lot of glass. I remember. I mean, Gatorade was the drink. Yeah. When I played football, we'd go to the store, we'd buy Gatorades and the clinking of the bottles and everything. But I'd like to back up just a little bit and let's talk about Nike and the fact that Jordan didn't even want to sign with them. They were just an upstart. They were a track shoe.
His mom and dad made him. They're like, boy, get on the plane. You're going to go meet with them. It would be rude not to, and the fact that nobody else at that time was getting, we're getting $100,000, $200,000 a year contracts. And here we are, we're going to go sign this guy for, mega bucks. And I said, the representative for Nike was like, you're going to sign him for how much? A rookie who hasn't done anything. Right. And if you were to say that today, about a rookie, they'd be like, man, you're out of your mind. Zion Williamson, they're ready to throw, $30 million at this guy, at a rookie who hasn't done anything. Well, he hasn't won a national championship. He coming into the NBA, he's unproven talent. He coming into the NBA hurt. Yeah. And they're still going to throw all this money at him.
Again, it's the evolution of the business, bro.
Yeah, man, it really is.
That's the other thing. I mean, I thought it was interesting to note that that exec that they were interviewing saying that Nike was hoping that they would, make $3 million by the end of the year from sales, and they did like $128 million the first year. Yeah, and so that whole evolution again is the byproduct of these guys waking up and saying, wow, we're going to take sports shoes and transition into a fashion trend too.
Because they were talking about at that time, it was only tennis stars and golf stars, individual athletes that were signing contracts like that because they didn't have to represent a team. And to take a team player and transition him into the biggest marketing tool out there was a stroke of genius on Nike's part. It was a stroke of genius on his agent's part because his agent was the one pushing for it, and it worked out so well for him that now Jordan is synonymous with high-end style in athletic wear, to the point now where everybody wants to sign under the Jordan brand of Nike. Luka Doncic just signed with Jordan. Nobody talks about Luka Doncic signing with Nike. What they're talking about is Luka Doncic signing with Jordan. So Jordan is a subset of Nike, but nobody's saying, "Hey, man, Nike just signed Luka Doncic." No, everybody's talking about how Jordan's shoe concept, his whole brand signed Luka Doncic. So that just goes to show you how big it blossomed for him. That now everything is synonymous with, "Hey, man, that one guy is now a brand into himself, signing all these younger players."
Right. Well, I will say this one thing. I thought it was a little bit of chicken shit of Michael when they won the Olympics, and then when they're going to go get their medals, he hit the Reebok logo because it was, it wasn't working out for his partner Nike, and I was like, yeah, come on, you're making millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to sit there and be petty because Reebok outbid Nike for the rights. I mean, come on. They could have stepped up and paid more money. I mean, that's what it's all about as a business. But, that aside, it definitely was, again, an evolution where Jordan brought this whole thing, this whole aspect, and that's why these younger players are benefiting from some of the groundwork he laid because, as we said, Zion Williamson, those guys are making money because of historically what happened with Jordan and those, in that whole generation as they transformed. Because I remember when they talked about Nike coming onto the scene, that Converse was still the big shoe bringer, right? And you look at some of those Converse shoes, and you're like, oh my god, I don't think I'd ever be wearing those.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point, though, I do like that the documentary is talking about things like this because I would have never known, something to that effect. Jordan, didn't even like Nike, that he was a big Adidas fan. And kudos on his agent because had he picked another agent, we might not be sitting here talking about, the Jordan shoe line at all. History could have played out completely differently. So, his agent kind of changed the game for future athletes into, building their own shoe lines. Now Kobe, like you guys said, the Luka, the LeBron brand, whatever it is, James Harden with Adidas, Steph Curry with Under Armour. So, I mean, that completely revolutionized, the shoe game and, how these guys do business outside of the NBA because, then he started doing the commercials with McDonald's, so they started looking elsewhere to create revenue too.
Man, and I'm glad that you said one name there, RJ, and that's Kobe, man, because I thought it was very touching how they started the 5th episode, in loving memory of Kobe Bryant. And just that whole interview, I think that just it shocked a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. But, man, it was awesome to hear Kobe talk about, him saying, without him, I don't win 5 championships in LA, right? Without him, I don't, I'm not the player I am because he made me the player I am. I saw a picture of I can't remember where I saw the picture, but it was Kobe guarding Jordan. And, Jordan's kind of hunched over in his stance where he always grabs his shorts. And Kobe's kind of standing right behind him, and he has his left leg locked behind Michael Jordan's right leg. And he's got his back shoulder, kind of locked behind Michael Jordan, kind of anticipating his, what he's trying to do. And it talked about how Kobe knew what Jordan was going to do because he studied so many hours, thousands of hours on tape of Michael Jordan to see what his tendencies were because he wanted to be like that. Jordan was the one that taught him how to shoot the fadeaway the way he shot, because if you look at their fadeaway jumpers, man, they're almost identical. But it's because Kobe spent so much time studying and watching and looking at Michael Jordan that he became the player that he was. And, when they showed the All-Star game video behind the scenes where, Jordan's, it's his last All-Star game as a Bull, and Kobe's first All-Star game at 19 years old, man, how touching that was when everybody's talking about, oh man, Kobe don't let the game come to him. He goes out and takes it. He attacks it. Yeah, that little Laker boy. But that you could already tell that they sensed that what Kobe was going to become. Like people when Michael Jordan was coming up kind of sensed what he was going to become. But I thought it was one of my favorite parts of this entire series was that whole, I think it was like a whole 10-minute subset talking to Kobe about Jordan. And man, the thing that got me was when he said that was, without him, I don't win 5 championships in LA. I thought that was fantastic.
And to get away, just for a second from the documentary, I think that shows also how crazy, this year has been, because, with everything going on, I think to some extent the Kobe, passing away has become a bit of a backdrop. Not that people have forgotten about it, but obviously our life has just become so different that, something like this, we would, still be, obviously we're still talking about it, but it'd be to a bigger effect if not for, something like what's happening. So, it definitely was touching to see him in there. One thing that I found interesting was how Jordan took kind of that mentorship role with Kobe.
Yeah, that was awesome.
No, it's awesome. Yeah. But I was gonna say, I also find it peculiar that you don't hear about that him being that way with LeBron, because LeBron also does pay homage to him. It's not like LeBron's out there, insulting Jordan or anything to that effect. LeBron is very, I think, respectful in the same way Kobe was. That if it wasn't for Michael, a lot of modern day players wouldn't be here. So I would have thought, with him being that way towards Kobe, why wouldn't he try to be that way with LeBron? Just a thought. That's all.
Well, I think that some of that has a function, though, that I think truly Michael wanted to get away from the game for a while. I think in episode 6, we begin to see how Jordan is becoming increasingly frustrated with all the media attention. While I think he does like the limelight, I think it's beginning to wear on him, and he tells you. I mean, the one scene where he's sitting in the hotel room smoking a cigar, laying on the couch.
I know, man, that was horrible.
And saying, this is the only downtime I have, because if I go out anywhere in public, there's always people, there's always photographers, there's always media. Everybody wants to interview me. Everybody wants to get an autograph. And the more and more I think about it, there is. I mean, that is the trade-off. That's the negative when you become a celebrity and a superstar. Is that you lose some of your freedoms from that aspect. In that it's people are going to come asking no matter what. And for him, I think it was the additional, just the complete scrutiny about what was going on with him off of the basketball court. Some of his gambling issues, some of his, some of those other aspects that began to wear on him, and it made sense that he, after winning the 3rd title when they beat Portland, that you could sense that he was really in the mindset of, hey, maybe it is time for me to take a step back from this thing. And I think the other thing too that was, going back to episode 5 that we didn't talk about is how him and Pippen tried to freeze out Kukoc.
Oh yeah. during the Olympics, man. That was wrong.
They were ruthless.
They were ruthless, man.
Well, it's what it seems that one of the obvious themes in all of this, what seems to be very pervasive in all of this, is their strong dislike for Jerry Krause.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And it's like when they talk about the Olympics, how Jerry Krause was so enamored with Kukoc and was delaying negotiating with Pippen. So they said, okay, let's show Jerry Krause how good this kid really is. And to hear Kukoc's side saying, those guys didn't even know me, and they were
reasoning me out.
Yeah, like acting like I was a bad guy. They don't know anything about me. And then, of course, obviously, he becomes their teammate. And I think as they grow together, that obviously that animosity fades away. But and then when they talk about in the series against Charles Barkley and in the Phoenix Suns, right? And how Jordan made reference to the fact that Jerry Krause was doting over Dan Marley. Was it Dan Marley?
Yeah, Dan Marley, talking about how great of a defensive player he was.
Right. And Jordan made it a point to light him up and show it off in front of him. And I got to give on, I kind of forgot about that series. It's been a long time since I thought about it. But, Charles Barkley, man, he was a hell of a player, too.
Yeah, he was, man. Well, he was the league MVP that year.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of forget about that because you look at Charles Barkley now and you think, he's the NBA clown. He's the guy on TNT that's making everybody laugh, and he's making all the controversial comments, and, he's put on a few pounds. Even back then he wasn't the slimmest, trimmest of guys. They used to call him the round mound of rebound. But you forget about how great Charles Barkley was. He was a league MVP, and he was the guy who led the Phoenix Suns to that point. And but that's a great thing that I'm really, really more than anything enjoying about this documentary is that all the memories that it's taking back that you forgot. You forget about Charles Barkley, you forget about the whole Tony Kukoc thing, you forget about Gatorade being in glass bottles. That the story that he told about how bad the first Air Jordans were when he wore them in the last game in Madison Square Garden, that they were so bad they made his feet bleed, right? Like they weren't the most comfortable shoes, but he wore them, when they first came out, and he just forgot how bad they were, that, they're not the most comfortable. But hey, I love playing in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to wear these shoes. It's my last game here. And he said by the end of it, I couldn't wait to get those things off. And he's talking to the reporter. He's like, man, my feet are killing me. You forget about those little things like that. And I think that's one of the great things about this documentary. And as we wrap up here today, I'm looking forward. I know we still have 4 more episodes to go. We got 2 more dropping this week. RJ, we definitely want to have you back on again next week for our review of episodes 7 and 8. So, it looks like we're hitting about that hour mark, and it looks like it's about time to wrap things down. So, RJ, we will talk to you later, buddy. We appreciate you stopping by again, man. Good stuff. Love how you come prepared with all your stats and things like that. Great job, buddy.
Right.
And we'll talk to you later, okay?
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
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 All right, bro. Well, it is that time. We're right at about an hour. Great talking to you guys again, man. I really, really enjoy doing this. I know you do too.
Right. I do.
I love that background, man. That's so awesome, that Blue Angels. I just really, really wish I would have been able to see it, man. I thought it would have been so cool.
Well,
But
like I said, it was cool, and I think too, bro, that we sometimes we're all caught up in our own little worlds that we forget to take a step back, and it's something like this flyover that again reminds us that we need to appreciate that we're in a country where we have so many freedoms, where we have so many blessings. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. We have a lot of issues that we still have to work out here, but it's still the greatest country in the world. So
totally. Well, guys, we really appreciate you listening to us this week. Again, we really, I can't express enough all the appreciation I have for you guys, for all the comments you left, all the likes that we've been getting. We really, really enjoy doing this. We're glad that you do too. And if you do like it, you can hit the like and subscribe button down there at the bottom for us. New content coming out every week. But once again, we're done for this week. And once again, we couldn't do this without Jesse P. So thanks for stopping by, guys. And we'll talk to you again later.
See ya.